Hi, I'm Coach Ribbit. Probably wondering where Carly is. Well, you know, it's playoff time. She's getting to work and not being a Walmart rollback version of Jane Kennedy.
Whoa. Walmart rollback Jane Kennedy? What?
So here's what's on the show tonight. First, Dirigo defiant as Maine's legislature once again stops anti-trans nonsense when it comes to trans student athletes for their schools. We'll have the insight on that. Oh, ambush, mayhem, the rivalry continues. We have the highlights on that. There was a pride protest in England. A swimmer who decided she wouldn't take discrimination lying down. We'll have that story. And Representative Sarah McBride had some things to say about trans people in sports and how it relates to the political situation. We'll look at what she said and what she didn't say. We'll look in on a rivalry, a sisterhood, and what it means to be an athlete who's trans in these times. I will say this for Carly. She's a lot closer to being Maria Taylor than she is being Sedor Sanders. I'm just saying.
Thanks, Ribbit. I think. Transposition Sports, right now. The only sports show in the world where even the stuffies bust on the host. Hello again, everybody. This is Transposition Sports. I'm Carly Chardonnay Webb, and you know, we're at the practice field. So it's a Carly's Clipboard edition again this week. And right at the top, the state of Maine. Yes, that state's been in the news a lot partially because of Governor Janet Mills standing up to the Trump administration. Well, the Maine legislature did it again on Monday with the Maine Senate voting down LD 322, a bill designed to ban transgender girls and women from scholastic and collegiate athletics in the state. That has been a constant project in Maine by who else? You know who? The Republicans.
Transphobia for a stronger America.
Well, in this case, this Republican-sponsored bill died as the Maine legislature were ending session. You can rest assured, though, it'll be brought back in the fall. But this has been a continuing pattern. Maine Republicans have put up bills. They've gotten a lot of fuel in the bus from the administration, but Maine Democrats and independents have voted it down every time. Oh, by the way, the number of athletes this bill would affect at the present time, a grand total of 2 that we know of. Elsewhere, across the Pacific, going over to India, Anaya Bangor. Now, she is the daughter of Sanjay Bangor, a highly touted cricketer turned former India manager, now a professional coach. Well, she was a standout in the age group ranks. Played well in the Mumbai under-16s, Pondicherry under-19s, most recently for the Mumbai State under-23 team. But a couple years ago, she started to transition. She came out. And recently, she's talked about her story, her journey, and the fact that she wants to play pro cricket and she wants to play for India's national team. Now, as a part of that on Monday, on her Instagram, she revealed that she had been taking part in the Metropolitan Manchester University studies on trans athletes, the same studies ran by former football goalkeeper, PhD, and friend of the show, Blair Hamilton. Now, last month, she went over for performance testing and revealed the results of that testing. And then on Tuesday, went on India's ABP News. And here's what she had to say about her journey and the receipts that she's holding.
स्ट्रॉंगेस्ट फिमेल क्रिकेटर घ्या, वीकेस्ट फिमेल क्रिकेटर घ्या आणि 2 मार्जिन क्रिएट करा. समजा स्ट्रेंथ, एंड्युरन्स, स्टॅमिना, ऑक्सिजन लेवल्स, ते सगळं घ्या आणि एक मार्जिन क्रिएट करा. सो आणि केस बाय केस बेसिसवर ट्रान्स वुमेनला त्या टेस्टच्या अंडरगोन होऊ द्या. त्याच्यानंतर ते फिट झाले तर का नाही खेळू शकत, कारण क्रिकेट शेवटी तर एक स्किल बेस्ड स्पोर्ट आहे. मग ते शारीरिक ऍडव्हान्टेज तुमच्याकडे नाही ट्रान्झिशन नंतर, मग तुम्हाला अजून काय या बाबतीत बोलला की सेफ नसणार किंवा फेअर नसणार.
Both the Board of Control of Cricket in India and the International Cricket Council each have banned transgender women, at least from international competition. Those bans came out in 2024. But the BCCI has not revealed rules in regards to domestic and club competition. And that is the point of attack that Bangor is looking at in putting forth her findings and putting forth the research on her and sending it to both the BCCI and the ICC to take a look at it. Now, this is the third such time that such data has been put forth to a governing body. Remember, 3 years ago, cyclist Emily Bridges put forth similar data done in a study with Loughborough University in the UK in regards to her power numbers, medical status, the whole 9 yards. The UCI didn't even look at it. And of course, there was 2019 during the the UCI Masters Track Cycling Championships when Dr. Veronica Ivy, yes, that Dr. Veronica Ivy literally had to put all her business out in the street in building a press release that refuted a lot of nonsense charges against her in the press the week of the championships. Oh, by the way, that same week, she won her second consecutive world championship in her age group. Now, Bangor is bringing the receipts to both governing bodies. But here's the $64,000 question, or in this case, the 64,000 rupee question. Will they listen? Past performance say they most likely not, which once again proves that fairness, it's only for cis people. Hashtag just saying. In England, there's a woman named Anna Isabella Combs. She's 67 years old. She's a swimmer. She's been a part of the Reading Swim Club for 30 years. Before her transition and after she transitioned during the pandemic 5 years ago. She competed as the woman she is until 2023, when Swim England, the national governing body for the sport in England, said, nope, now you have to be in an open/men's category. Once it's called what it is, a de facto men's category. Well, as part of that, she was told that, well, if you're going to be a man, then you have to wear a men's uniform. That's going to be a little bit of a problem, as Coombs explained.
Good morning. It's Saturday, the 10th of May, and I'm at sunny Sedgemoor Services on the M5 on my way from Cornwall up to Reading. I'm travelling to Reading because I am in a swimming competition later on this afternoon. Looking forward to seeing a lot of my old friends from Reading Swimming Club and some of the officials that I used to work with. However, there's a slightly more important aspect to it as far as I'm concerned. I have now to swim in the what's called open/male category. I'm not allowed to swim as a female anymore. I used to be able to. And so I'm going to protest in my own little way. I am going to consider that if I am swimming with the men, then I must wear the same costume as the men. Or to put it another way, I'm going to swim my 50 metres breaststroke topless. Now, technically, and swimming is one of these funny sports where you have lots of rules about what costume you should wear. And I have checked this with Swim England in the past. I'm expected to wear a female costume. So if I wear a male costume, that is something that doesn't come up above the navel, then I should technically be disqualified. However, if they disqualify me, that means I should be wearing a women's costume. If I'm wearing a women's costume, I must be a woman. Therefore, I should be able to enter the women's competition. We'll see. I'm going to try and tangle them up with their own lack of logic. I'll let you know what happens.
So you got it. Coombs winning the pool. She did finish last, but more importantly, she got a point across because she bared it all. And we mean all. Pride is a protest, and that's an example of some good trouble right there. Good on you, Ms. Coombs. Good on you. Kind of a bittersweet sporting note. It's been announced late last week that Grand Slam track, the fledgling effort by track legend Michael Johnson, canceled their final round coming up later this month in Los Angeles, citing financial concerns. Now, Johnson has said that he will continue next year, but there will be some restructuring and some things that need to be done. Now, one thing about Grand Slam track, it's been an opening for some prominent LGBTQ athletes. Jarrett Naguse was a part of it. Trey Cunningham was among the leaders in it. And, of course, Nikki Hiltz was a part of it. and they won an event earlier in the tour. Here's hoping that Grand Slam track, a good idea, can continue into 2026. When we return to Transposition Sports, highlights of a special weekend for me in more ways than one. And Representative Sarah McBride talked to the New York Times. Let's talk about what she said, what she didn't say, and maybe what she should have. I'm Carly Chardonnay Webb. This is Transposition Sports. Stay with us.
Look down the middle and complete it to Voda again. There's Erica Voda. Gonna bounce to the outside past the 20, 15, 10, going for the pylon. She's in. Touchdown ambush.
I interrupt Transposition Sports because I'm cute and I can't. And for this message from the angry gay grandpa. You don't pay me enough for this, Carly.
So maybe I'll start a little bit softer.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine.
Dad?
Before you say anything, I just want to apologize for what I said this morning. I've been doing a lot of thinking. If you want to change your name, if you want to wear a dress.
It's a skirt, Dad.
Skirt. I don't know the kind of support you need, but let's get you some for all this transgender stuff.
Wait. Are you serious? Dad, what is this?
Oh, this is me supporting you. This is me saying I love you. This is me not losing you.
Love you, Dad.
Love you. Holly.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
Welcome back to Transposition Sports. Mayhem, ambush, and Danbury Saturday night. Big rivalry game, first quarter. Sam Valentino, All-American kicker punter with the punt. Jana Charest looking to field it. Oops, ball is on the ground. Who's going to get it? Who's going to get it? And look, the host of Transposition Sports makes the recovery.
Now hold on just a minute. You just had to put yourself in the highlight, did you, Carly?
Whoa, Kirby. Wait, Kirby, what? What? This is my show.
You know what? I saw you hustling against Maine. Why don't you hustle like that to fill my bowl, huh? Now, let's have the real highlights. Second quarter, Sam Valentino, that deep ball to Julian Mullen, yeah. Mullen's a rookie All-American 22-yard gain, and then 2 plays later, she's on the receiving end of a 15-yard touchdown from Valentino. It's 6-0 ambush. Later second quarter, Valentino to another All-American. Erica Votto on the crossing route, and I'll tell you, Carly, she runs like she could catch a mouse. 52-yard touchdown, it's 13-0. But you know, never count out Maggie Schofield at quarterback. Remember last year? Flashback, big TD pass, broke a scoreless game open.
Really, Kirby? Really? You gonna go there?
Yeah, it's called journalism, Carly. Look it up, it happened. Well, she gambled again. This time, Kenya Ansome. Also an All-American. Intercepted, and you know how fast number 20 is. She took it to the house. It's 20-0. That's the way it ended. Ambush stopped the mayhem, 20-0, and that put the ambush and my cat mom in the playoffs next week. They meet Music City in the first round. Oh, All-Americans for the ambush. First team, of course, Sam Valentino. First team kicker, congratulations. And rookie defensive end Deja Spearman. Boy, she was dominant this year. She's on the first team. Second teamers, Tanasia Bostic, doing what she always does. And then, of course, Vada and Mullen, along with Anselme. And on the third team, Tina Valentino at tight end, and Anna Villafane, who anchored the offensive line this season. Carly, you didn't make the cut, but you know what? You're always an All-American with me, especially when you fill the ball.
Oh, Kirby, thank you. Love you, kitty. Love you, kitty. This week, Delaware Representative Sarah McBride, the nation's first out transgender member of Congress, had a sit down with Ezra Klein of the New York Times to discuss the trans rights movement, where it needs to go, and according to some of the notes in the interview, why it's failed. Now, whenever I hear things like that, kind of throws up a red flag. It seems that Sarah McBride, in some ways, has been caught up in the, shall we say, the Democratic Party meme that our overemphasis on trans people, depending on who you talk to, is the reason why the Democrats are a minority party right now. I disagree with that, but that's a different topic for a different show. One of the things she said in this hour 35-minute interview is the need for grace in our political discourse and in our body politic, and I agree with her. We could use some grace. We could use less toxicity. We could use less of the acidic, caustic rhetoric that we've seen. I agree with her on that, and here's some of the things she said about that.
I think grace in politics means, one, creating room for disagreement, assuming good intentions, assuming that the people who are on the other side of an issue from you aren't automatically hateful, horrible people. I think it means creating some space for disagreement within your own coalition. I think it's a kindness that just feels so missing from our body politic and our national dialogue. And look, I saw it in the Delaware State Senate on both sides of the aisle, whether it's in Republicans in Delaware joining on to be co-sponsors on an LGBTQ panic defense bill that I was the prime sponsor of, whether it was the discourse being much kinder and more civil on a whole host of even cultural war issues. I saw that grace have the effect of lowering the temperature, removing some of the incentives to go after vulnerable people in this country, in our state. I saw it with my colleagues on the Republican side of the aisle who didn't vote for bills that were deeply personal to me, and yet we still found ways to work together. We still found ways to develop friendships. And look, I know that places more of a burden on me than it does on them. Right? I know that when you're asking a marginalized person to extend grace in a conversation, you're asking much more of that marginalized person. But change making isn't always easy, and it's not always fair. And why would we expect that the extra burdens and barriers of marginalization would cease at the point of overcoming the marginalization, of creating the change necessary to eliminate prejudice and create equal opportunity in our society?
Now, there's a number of places where we do part company. One of those is when she talked about the sports issue. Now, she talked about relevant considerations, but she also tried to use that as an example of her main theme, that in many ways, we've gotten ahead of the public opinion, and that's where we're getting bit. In a sense, saying that that there were a lot of things that the public wasn't ready for. Here's what she had to say on that.
I think on the sports conversation, it's local control. It's allowing for individual athletic associations to make those individual determinations. And in some cases, they'll have policies that strike a right balance. In some cases, they'll have policies that are too restrictive. And I think that is the equivalent to the civil union's position in that debate. By allowing for Democratic voters, independent voters, hell, even some elected officials to take that civil union's position, one, that met voters where they were. It gave some of our politicians who needed it an off-ramp so that they didn't have to choose between being all on or all off. We, as a sort of coalition, went to Trans 201, Trans 301, when people were still at a very much Trans 101 stage one. And then two, I think there were requests that people perceived as sort of cultural aggression, which then allowed the right to say, we're punishing trans people because of their actions rather than we're going after innocent bystanders. And I think some of the sort of cultural mores and norms that started to develop around inclusion of trans people were probably premature for a lot of people. We became absolutist, not just on trans rights. I think across the sort of progressive movement, we became absolutist. And we forgot that in a democracy, we have to, one, grapple with where the public authentically is and actually engage with it. And I think, we and part of this is fostered by social media. We sort of decided that we now have to say and fight for and push for every single perfect policy and cultural norm right now, regardless of whether the public is ready. And I think it misunderstands the role that politicians and, frankly, social movements have in maintaining proximity to public opinion, of walking people to a place. We should be ahead of public opinion, but we have to be within arm's reach. If we get too far out ahead, we lose our grip on public opinion and we can no longer bring it with us.
McBride went on to talk about things such as maximalism, not meeting people where they are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this is where we definitely part company, especially on this issue. Whenever I hear those terms, I'll be the first to admit, it brings a red flag out in me. Because whenever I hear the terms maximalist, what I'm really saying is, what it really says, at least to me, is, how dare you stand up for yourself? Now, on the matter of local control, I agree with her. But at some point, local control also and rules also has to mean, especially when we talk about fairness, that all sides in the equation get a fair shake. Now, another word she used was balance. Balance. See, whenever I hear a person use balance, most often it's a cis person using that word, and that person is talking about balance as in what makes me most comfortable. And that's one thing that I would love Representative McBride to understand, especially about the sports issue, is that this isn't so much about safety or fairness. In many ways, this is about the fact that certain people are uncomfortable with the fact that A.B. Hernandez winning a triple jump in California made certain people uncomfortable. And it shouldn't have made certain people uncomfortable. It just is what it is. She won. Now, she talked about the need for balance, which means, in many ways, an example of this, the California compromise to some, capitulation to me. You'll never get me to agree with what the CIF did, and I've been saying that for 2 shows now. You made this compromise, but the majority compromises nothing, and more is taken away from the minority. In this case, some people say, well, A.B. Hernandez, for example, gets to play. She gets to play. Actually, she doesn't. She gets to play, but she doesn't get to participate as a full member of the field. In a sense, what happened to her, and I'll say it one more time for the people in the back, it smacked of second-class citizenship. Where is the grace in that? Where is the grace of being told that if you win, you don't really win because we're going to give a gold medal to a person that you beat by 2 feet? But on the other side of the ledger, if you finish second, you got to share second, while first place, if they beat you, gets the gold medal by themselves. And you really don't get in the record books by your own merit. You are an asterisk. To me, that's a form of second-class citizenship. Also, when we talk about grace, can we talk about grace for kids? And McBride talked about this. I will give her that. She said, no, it's not about giving grace to the transphobes. It's about giving grace to imperfect allies. And I understand that to a point, but here's my question. Where were the allies speaking out when this was happening?
In a time of 55.70 from East Valley of Spokane, Veronica Garcia.
Where are the allies right now? In many ways, with the Scarametti decision as well. When kids are being booed or kids are being denied things, kids are being discriminated by law, how much grace can we hold for allies? At some point, when can we demand that even imperfect allies rise to something better? She mentioned Representative Seth Moulton. Now, Seth Moulton is imperfect, and I will say this, Representative McBride, he's not an ally. Yes, I know how he voted, but I also know one thing. My ally will not misgender me in public, my ally will not misgender me in private, and my ally will certainly not misgender me in a news interview.
My kids play co-ed sports. Co-ed sports are a thing for kids, and they have been for generations. There's no problem there. But people do have an issue when you get to like the college level, for example, of trans women competing against women.
Seth Moulton did when he said, "I don't want boys playing with my girls." How can Seth Moulton be an ally when he doesn't see my humanity at all and will demean me?
What I said is consistent with the views of the majority of Americans, but it's shut out of the Democratic Party debate.
In 2015, you were a supporter of the Equality Act. You said you were a fervent supporter of LGBT rights. How should constituents square the difference between that Seth Moulton and the remarks that we heard in the last few days?
Exactly the same Seth Moulton. Why is it not supportive of people you care about to be able to talk about their issues?
Well, what did you mean?
Can you tell? I mean, I don't understand how on earth that's not supportive.
Imperfect language is one thing. Willfully being ignorant is a completely another. What kind of grace are you giving me? And I will give McBride this. She talked about that. But when you say that, but then go back on it in the next breath, it does raise again. It raised those red flags. And a lot of people have them about the representative from Delaware. Now, I'm not going to be one who calls her a quisling or a traitor. No, I'm not. For all her misgivings, it's good that she's there. And it's an important milestone in American history that she is there. There's no denying that. And again, not calling her a traitor or anything like that. I understand the political box she's in, the social box she's in. I get it. I get it. But at the same time, I'm not asking her to speak out every time, but at the times when it's vital to speak out, you have to do it. When a kid is getting booed at a track meet, not a bad idea to use your bully pulpit. At the time of this Scarametti decision, this is not necessarily the time to talk about grace. It's time to talk about what it's really about. As Hope Giselle would say, sometimes you just got to call a thing a thing. And I think that's the biggest complaint that I have about Representative McBride. In plenty of times when she's needed to call a thing a thing, in her short time as a freshman in office, she hasn't done it. And a lot of people are looking at that and wondering, where is she at? And more importantly, where is she at in regards to so many of us? Finally tonight, though, I want to get on the trans joy for a minute. I know to some people it's kind of a bad word. Some people don't like it, but me, I like finding trans joy where I can find it. And one of the places I find it is right here on a football field between those white lines. And it was especially joyful for me this past Saturday night. My Connecticut Ambush took on the Maine Mayhem. Now, the Maine Mayhem are a tough, hard-nosed, physical football team. And in some ways, they've been the measuring stick for my team's ambition since we became a team. We lost to them twice last year. They were bitter, physical, tough defeats. We gave as good as we got, but we didn't do well enough. But on Saturday night, that changed. We finally slayed that dragon. And now we're staring down the barrel of our first playoff game in a week's time. And that's something that leaves me very excited. But in the middle of that game, there was an early moment. You see, little skinny old me was lined up at nose guard. Now, it's kind of a foreign position for me, but this has been the year of foreign positions for me. Offensive line and defensive line for most of it. Really, I'm a diva receiver, but you know something? Coaches coach, players play, and you play where coaches tell you. So that's where it was. But I was staring across from somebody who I respect a great deal and someone I consider a friend. Allie Cleveland. center middle linebacker for the Maine Mayhem, and by the way, a second team All-American this year. Congratulations, Allie. The way you played this season, it was more than well earned. But at that moment, she comes up to the line, takes the ball in her hand. I get down in my stands, and her eyes meet. Allie, Carly, Allie. And all of a sudden, smiles go across both our faces. We're both probably thinking the same thing. When you snap that ball, this is going to be fun. And it was fun. We tangled most of the night. It was an incredible game for both of us. Both of us played hard, made great plays, went at each other. And after that game, we were both sore, tired, battered, probably cursing each other's name in Epsom salt baths. But there was also a lot of love and a lot of respect. After the game, talked to each other, gave each other a big hug. We said we loved each other as we both left the field. And I told her she kicked my butt tonight. And she said, you kicked mine too. And she said, you've really gotten better. You really played great this year. I just want you to know that. And I said the same to her. That meant a lot coming from her because in some ways, Allie Cleveland was became my measuring stick as I was learning these new positions because she's been playing semi-pro football in one variation or another for 20 years. She's been around this. She's seen it all. She's done it all. And remember, we interviewed her last year here at Transposition Sports. She told us a lot of her backstory. As a football player, as a trans woman, as an athlete who proudly hits that field for a team that loves having her. That's the story that a lot of people on the bigger issue aren't telling you. There's all the story of the controversy. But who's willing to do a story about the fact that Allie Cleveland is a captain of the Maine Mayhem? Loved by her coaches, loved by her team, she is a team leader. I've been telling my story for quite some time. And it's a story I'll always tell to anyone who will listen, even those who are the imperfect allies that Representative McBride talks about, especially to them. I'd love to tell them a story about 3 years ago to Pride when a team administrator came up to me, knowing the truth, knowing about me, but saying, have you ever thought about playing football? And that you're welcome here. And how that team welcomed me and this team welcomed me. And when a league said that you cannot play, an entire team, all cisgender women, closed ranks around me and said, you are one of us, sis, and we fight with you. That's something that myself and Allie have in common. We have that support. And as long as I can type on a keyboard, as long as I can write, as long as I can tell stories and speak, I'm going to tell that story. Because that story is often missing. The same way that the story, that the positive side of A.B. Hernandez's story, in a lot of ways, has kind of gotten short shrift. That her competitors at that moment saw her as just another person out there that I need to beat. And to me, that's the balance. To me, that's the real fairness. If you really want to talk about being fair, let's just treat that trans kid playing a sport as any other kid playing a sport. Give them an opportunity to compete on merit. Not nonsense, not hysteria, but just the merit. If you run fast enough, if you jump high enough, if you make the block, if you make the shot, if you connect on the ball and get down to first base, that right there, that's the true essence. That's the fairness. That's what it ought to be about. And on a line of scrimmage on a football field in Western Connecticut that night, that's what it was all about. It wasn't two trans women. It wasn't a political point. It was just two football players who respect each other and wanted to give their very best going at each other. That is the beauty and the power of sports, and we need that in this time. No, a week before, at our Pride game, I carried the pride flag out to lead the team out. This shot right here by Clark Thompson, awesome photographer, or team photographer, should tell you everything you need to know about what sports means to me, especially now that I'm living as my best self. Sports in the past was a place for me to hide. Now sports is a place for me to shine. And I think that shine should be for everybody. Let's continue to work to make it so. For Transposition Sports, I'm Carly Chardonnay Webb.